Welcome back to the podcast where we are reading through the Bible throughout this year. I'm Pastor Matt, and today I have with me Chris Randall.
Hey.
Welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Great to be back.
Today we get to talk about two books, and they're wisdom books, wisdom literature, Ecclesiastes and Song of Songs, which will be very interesting because if you've read Song of Songs, it's a little bit
Buckle up.
Spicy, a little bit interesting. So before we get into our books, though, we are focused on this week's, instead of doing our normal, like, hey, let's get to know Chris better, the very heart of Chris, besides Bigfoot stuff, is Husker talk.
Absolutely.
And it is like, we could talk Huskers all day long, every day.
Year round.
All the time. But it is, today is Big Ten Media Days.
Yep.
And it's the start and build up of the year. So I thought what we would do is we would build the momentum, build the hype, or maybe shatter it, we'll see, of Husker football to start our day out. So let's talk. What are you most excited about for the coming season, Chris?
Yeah, a lot to be excited about. You got year 2, Dylan Raiola.
Yep.
Kind of worried about, is it going to be a sophomore slump? Is he going to step
ride
into
high?
Oh, yeah. And also, like, this has been the story since we've hired Matt Rule, but it's the magical year 3, which everywhere he's been, year 3, it's 10-plus wins. What worries me is, like, we've never seen a year 4 Matt Rule. I'm like, what does year 4 look like?
He's normally had so much success that
he just keeps elevating.
It ends up elevating him,
Yeah, so very excited about that. Excited that we have Daniel Holgerson as our offensive coordinator. Excited to see what he does with our offense. So that's what I'm excited about.
I'm super excited to see Heinrich Harburg as a tight end.
As a tight end, that would be cool.
It's like this cool little thing that you can just you can do almost anything with. He's like the fastest guy on the team. He's huge.
Yep.
He also knows the playbook and the quarterback role and everybody's role so well because of his previous position. And I think he's just a dynamic athlete. So I'm excited to see what they do with him.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to ask you a question. What's the position group you are most confident in? And what's the position group you are the least confident in?
Man, I would say I'm most confident in, which is going to be an odd answer, most confident in the defensive line.
Really?
Yes, which I know is weird. I really like
we lost a lot on
Riley
the line.
Van Poppel.
Yep.
I like the other guys that are around that. And I just think that they're going to be super good.
Yeah.
And every time, Rule always creates good defensive line. And so I'm trusting in that, and I'm excited about that. The cool thing, Riley Van Poppel, when I was in 5th grade, my class was super into baseball card collecting.
Oh.
And it's not Riley Van Poppel, is it? Is
yeah.
it? Oh, yeah, it's Riley. His dad, though, was Todd Van Poppel. So this is my story. 5th grade, Todd Van Poppel was a first-round draft pick in the Major League Baseball draft.
Oh.
And that was the baseball card to get. I'm pretty sure my 5th grade teacher did a really bad trade and got it from me for some cheap Kirby Puckett card.
Oh, my gosh.
And
That's
he took
a steal.
advantage of it. So, but yeah, that was like and then when I saw this guy's name, I'm like, Riley Van Poppel. That's just familiar. And then I found out, that's his dad. So I'm excited about that. I believe they're going to be good on the defensive line.
Yeah. Wow. So funny enough, that would be my least confident group.
That's probably going to be most
And
people's.
the reason is because we're losing guys like Nash Hutmacher, Ty
guys
Robinson.
with tons of experience.
Yep. And so while I do believe there's a lot of potential, I'm worried about the lack of experience.
Yeah.
And be just curious to see what that looks like.
Yep.
But
yeah. I understand that. So who's the breakout player for this season?
Yeah, that's who. I'm gonna go with this. He's kind of highly praised, but he's a newcomer.
Okay.
Marquise Watson-Trent, linebacker.
Yep.
He was already graded in Pro Football Focus as one of the top linebackers in the Big Ten, and yet he hasn't played a snap in the Big Ten yet.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a lot of praise around him.
He was really good at Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
So
I think he's going to be a breakout.
Yeah.
Also keep your eye on Vincent Shavers. I think he's going to take another big step. And then I think a guy who got injured last year but was competing for starting time was Bly Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a lot of praise going into last season and then got injured. So keep your eye out for Bly Hill as well as a defensive back.
Yeah, I like those. I like those picks. There's a lot of guys I'm excited for. It's hard to narrow down. So Key could be
Dane Key.
Dynamic. Carter Nelson is always like that guy's freak athlete.
And what's that going to look like with Heinrich Harburg?
Yeah.
Like who's going to get the reps?
Yeah.
Who's gonna get more snaps?
Well, we got Mark Proner behind the scenes over there.
Yeah, shout out to Mark.
And Mark, so who's your breakout star? Just big shout.
It's going to be Heinrich Harburg for sure.
Oh, yeah. Heinrich Harburg.
12 personnel with Carter Nelson.
Whew.
But Dane Key and anyone else on the outside, there are a lot of 12. You're going to see a lot of an old style like Husker formation.
Oh, I'm getting excited.
Oh, man.
Mark's getting me excited back there about all these formation things. So if you didn't know, Mark, who is interning for us this summer and doing all the video things, also is a coach for the Titans. So football team and
defensive coordinator.
Yeah, defensive coordinator for that freshman team.
Used to coach quarterbacks too.
Yeah, so maybe next week we'll do a critique of the freshman Titan football team.
Yeah.
Who's breakout stars?
Breakout
like
stars. Yeah,
so.
we could be the only. We'd be the
You'll
only
only
freshman
hear it here.
Titan football podcast out there.
Well, we could go literally all day on this. So we apologize to the non-Nebraska fans, but we are super excited about football season coming up.
Love it.
As sad as it is for summer to be ending, so excited for football to get started. So Chris, we could jump into more football, but we're going to jump into our podcast topic today, which is wisdom. Specifically wisdom literature. So let's begin with Ecclesiastes. I still recall this book, the book of Ecclesiastes, from when I was starting out in youth ministry a couple years in. I went to a youth ministry leader conference way back in 2005, and I got to hear John Ortberg do a sermon on this. And if you're familiar with John Ortberg, he is a phenomenal speaker, teacher, and he crushed it, knocked it out of the park. And I was just so just loved Ecclesiastes after hearing him talk about it.
Sure.
And was just so excited. So Ecclesiastes, that's like my primary memory of the book of Ecclesiastes, is his preaching around that. So
that's a cool connection there.
Yeah. So I lean towards a more traditional view of Solomon being the writer of Ecclesiastes. Is that kind of where you tend towards too?
And a lot of that comes from knowing that this is wisdom literature.
Yeah.
And you see in Solomon's life being blessed with wisdom, being the wisest to ever walk the earth.
Yeah.
I would lean in that boat too, of that he was the writer of Ecclesiastes.
And it tends to be the historical understanding is that has been the historical view. It's more just in the last century.
Especially the point of view Ecclesiastes is speaking from would be a similar point of view of Solomon, who had everything.
Yeah.
So he knows what that. He'd be able to write to that. You know? So that's
kind of what leads us in. So let's dive into this book. What do we see in terms of themes and things going on?
Yeah. So Ecclesiastes helps us view life in the proper perspective. In a weird way, it makes us recognize that this life is significant but insignificant.
Yeah.
In the sense that it is so quick in comparison to eternity. Like it's described as like our life is like the dew of the grass. Like it's here in a moment and then gone, or the mist of the air, right? And so it gives us the proper perspective of life, and it also reveals the lack of control over our lives. And that the true meaning of finding that good life, the life that we all strive for, it's actually rooted in a hope for God's judgment that will destroy evil and bring justice, the redemption of this world. That when you have that focus, the eternal perspective of things, that's where life abundant is found.
Love that. So it uses this word hevel a lot, which the translation typically leans towards meaningless.
Yep.
And so kind of what you're talking about is like life is like a vapor in the wind, dew on the grass. It's something that comes and goes so quickly. And when we think about it, like in the midst of life, 100 years, if we live 100 years, seems like a long time. until we're in the midst of it and we reflect back and we're like, wow, that went super fast, as most things do. But this idea of meaningless, this gets translated 38 times. That word is found in this book of Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, and quick Bible study note, repetition is something to always look for. Like if you're seeing a specific word or phrase being repeated throughout a book, that's usually the author trying to communicate something.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that word, the more literal translation than meaningless, that's kind of what we've taken it to mean in the translation. But the more literal translation is actually vapor or smoke, something that you cannot grasp or have a hold of.
Wow,
That you're grasping at it. And
what a powerful image, because we all want control over our own lives. And the reality, we don't.
and that's kind of what we see Solomon lean into in terms of control. Like, I'm going to accumulate everything.
Right.
I'm going to do whatever I want, seek pleasure, seek these different things, fill my life with all the world's treasures, all the world's pleasures, trying to seek out control in some ways and experience it all. And yet it's this grasping at nothing of smoke, of vapor, of meaningless. So, yeah.
And then we see this book really just asks big questions about life. Like, why do bad things happen to good people? Why is life so unpredictable and unstable? Chasing of the wind, kind of the verbiage there. Sometimes when you read this book too, it almost sounds like it's kind of a downer.
It certainly can be as you read it. I love that language, chasing the wind.
Yeah.
Like,
relates to that vapor imagery as well.
Yeah. Like, you picture that even. Like, I'm running and I'm trying to catch the wind. Is like, it's nonsense or meaningless in a way of like, it can never be had. And so it's always within reach, but never within grabbing.
Like Iowa in a national championship. Just kidding. Sorry. I had to throw that in there with the Nebraska. It's good that I'm on mine.
But it is true. So we'll just lean into that for let that sit upon you. Well, here what we have is this book also it references the teacher as the reference point of the one teaching. And the teacher considers all the activities and false hopes in which we invest our lives in order to find meaning, to find significance. And so Solomon is leaning into wealth, leaning into his career, his social status, pleasures of all kinds. And however important these may seem in the moment of trying to reach, the march of time and impending death reduces it all to that word hevel again, of meaningless. That it's always something we're striving to, but we never achieve really either.
Yeah, and when you read stories like Ecclesiastes, maybe this is just me, but there's always a part of me that's like, well, I could enjoy all of those things. Or it's the cliche of like, well, if I was a millionaire, I would be really generous. Yeah. And I would know, like, God, you can trust me with abundance because I will handle it well. And we all have that in us of there's something out there that we feel like we need or we need to have, and that will make our life happier, make our life better, whatever it is. And that's what's so sobering about the book of Ecclesiastes is we are hearing the advice from what we believe is Solomon, the guy who had everything, wealth unimaginable, pleasures unimaginable, and yet he gets to the end of that and finds nothing. Yeah. And so as you're reading this book, it's also kind of leans into the idea of Proverbs as well, in the sense that while Proverbs, it's a lot of, it's wisdom literature again, lots of wise sayings. It's not necessarily to be read as like a guarantee that if you follow this exactly, then this is exactly how your life is going to turn out.
It's not like the promise of the gospel, like we talked about Proverbs.
Yeah, it is. It is much more of, hey, if you build your life on these things, if you live life in such a way, most often than not, things will go well for you if you follow that.
Yeah. Last week we used that language of Proverbs and wisdom literature is meant for probabilities. Like the probability is that your life will be better if you do these things. it's not a promise. Like when Christ gives us a promise, it's a promise that we trust and are assured in then.
Yeah.
And so that it's an interesting thing that like this should give us wisdom on how to live still though.
Yep,
and how,
absolutely.
how we live this life out. But ultimately the teacher, having tried all these things, and it's kind of this progression of like, I tried pleasure. I tried this wealth, accumulating these things, doing all this, accumulating art and music and all these things. And it, ultimately, the teacher continuously realizes after each of these things that it will all fade. Or as Jesus says in the Gospels, we just had this verse this last week, moth and rust.
Yeah.
And he says, do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And the teacher ultimately points to the gift of God, which is the enjoyment of simple, good things in life, like friendship, family, good meal, a sunny day. Being content, in essence, is really what we lean into. And it's honestly, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I'm trying to get Chris into it, but been playing that video as he comes over on Wednesdays with youth group.
And I'm not going to lie, it's continuing to
you're like,
intrigue.
I'm in. Yeah. But this theme kind of runs through Lord of the Rings because that was kind of a theme of Tolkien and as a whole of like the simple things in life are the best things of, and a lot of the stuff that Lord of the Rings actually is kind of, there's this thing that's going on in his writing in Lord of the Rings of like anti-industrialism almost, because he was longing for the green and the trees, and you see that play out in Lord of the Rings of the simple things of life, and yet we complicate it and try to control power and control our way through it.
And we see this in everyday life too when you think about a funeral. What's shared about someone's life is those simple things.
Yeah.
The way that they were to their family, the impact they made in relationships, not, oh, he drove these many cars or went on this many vacations. A
lot of times it's those really random, funny, fun stories that somebody shares at those funerals as well, of like something that feels so simple and so small in the midst of life, but that's the thing that stands out to somebody.
Absolutely.
Well, ultimately, what we land on is hevel. Meaningless, smoke in the wind. So
then it's like, okay, then what are we supposed to focus on? What are we supposed to find meaning in? And what we see in this book is that what gives life true meaning is that hope of redemption, that God's judgment and justice, that God will one day clear away all the hevel and bring true justice to our world. It's this that should fuel our hope to live a life of honesty, of integrity. It's when the Apostle Paul has said, like, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. And when you're living with that perspective, that produces a fruitful life.
Well, let's talk about Song of Songs. Now, this book is interesting because it is love poetry. And honestly, when you read it, and I would encourage you, if you haven't read it, to read it and read it with an understanding that these are two lovers poetically talking to each other.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in Jewish tradition, boys had to be a certain age before they read this book because of the content that exists.
That could be, but it was read at Passover as well. So it might have been only in a certain setting.
I think that was through an education perspective.
That could be.
Because I know that there was scripture memorization. And
I found it interesting that they would read this at Passover.
Which communicates something.
Like the importance. But it is romantic poetry, but it's filled with a lot of innuendo. Like a lot of sexual innuendo in it. So what do we do with this book, Chris?
So for some background first, just the title of the book alone, the Song of Songs is a Hebrew idiom similar to saying like Holy of Holies or King of Kings. It's a Hebrew way of saying that something is the greatest. That this song is the greatest song of
ever.
All. And kind of the big idea that even though our relationships, because of our sinful nature, are distorted by selfishness, we see, though, that love is a transcendent gift meant to show us something greater than our own selfishness.
Yeah.
The gift of God's love that will one day transform his beloved world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has kind of this dialogue going on between a young woman who delights in her man, and the man here seems to be a shepherd, and she's not married to him yet, but it's becoming clear that they're engaged and they can't wait to be together.
Yep.
And when I say together,
burning with passion.
Yeah. So there's that kind of thing going on in the midst of this of their eager anticipation for their wedding night, in essence. And the poem moves back and forth between the woman's voice and the man's voice. But most of it is the woman's voice. So that's kind of where you see the dialogue happening primarily.
Yeah, and some of the basic themes uniting the poems is the intense desire the couple has for each other, expressed through this, like you can sense this constant seeking and finding. And another repeated theme is the joy of their physical attraction to one another, which we talked about earlier. Great pickup lines if you're looking for that.
Yeah. So here's one for Sarah right now. Sarah, if you're listening, your teeth are like sheep.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that for when I proposed.
She's going to be like, wow, I've
been waiting to hear that my whole life. Yeah.
Do you want to drop a line for Morgan?
Maybe later when things are a little more intimate, you know what I mean? But yeah, so you see this theme of their joy for their physical attraction to each other. And at multiple points, they pause to describe each other with elaborate metaphors as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is where it gets a little spicy at times.
Yeah.
So the Song of Songs has a lot of fans actually from previous church fathers. So from ancient church fathers and really well-known theologians as well. It's interesting. As I was doing some research around this, Charles Spurgeon and Martin Luther, I think both, they had 80 sermons written each about Song of Solomon.
That's crazy.
Or Song of Songs, Song of Solomon. In fact, I think Luther and Spurgeon both, maybe even at least one of them, I think it was both of them, had sermons Holy Week. So like,
wow.
I can't remember if it was Good Friday or what day it was in Holy Week, but Song of Solomon was one of their sermons for Holy Week.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so I had mentioned this before, but in Jewish spirituality, the song was actually read at Passover. It seems odd unless you see the bigger picture of what, like, yes, it is clearly two lovers poeming back and forth their desire for each other.
But it could represent something.
And that's what it's seen as by the church fathers, and how we should also see this. It's really about God's unfailing love for his failing people. And this is why the early church fathers like Hippolytus from 170 BC preached from the song at Easter. So it was Spurgeon that preached Good Friday sermon on it.
Oh, okay.
They understood the song's lyrical and harmonic theology of love between Christ and his bride.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's these two lovers having this dialogue, but it's also a picture of the love of Christ for the church.
Yep.
So, and Spurgeon said it this way. There was a quote that said, "We see our Savior's face in almost every page of the Bible, but here we see his heart and feel his love to us."
Yeah, which I think it's important to even just take time to ponder of the fact that the church, us as the church, is described as the bride of Christ.
Yeah.
And the level of love and intimacy, commitment, that should bring so much life to us and encouragement of, man, God loves us so much that, like, man, we're his bride, like the church. And man, so that's just a powerful imagery. And if we when we read this book and see it through that lens of Christ's love for the church, as Christ at the center, it kind of reminds you a little bit of like reading Hosea, where we read it both as a real story, but also that it was representing Christ's love for an unfaithful generation. And so you could see it in the same way that a husband and a wife can learn about intimacy through the Song of Songs. We can also learn about our relationship with God and how God views us as the bride of Christ.
The groom's affection for the bride, and it's interesting because the bride's affection is what comes out all the more in this. Like the bride's affection for the gonna be groom is just, there's so much language around that in it. The groom side of it, we were kind of joking earlier. The groom side of it tends to be a regular kind of guy thing of like, she'll use all this really beautiful language and picture and talk about him in all these ways, both physically but also in different ways. Where the groom section on this tends to be, you're hot, like kind of in different language, but that's kind of what it always comes down to is, I like how you look. So,
which is not too far off.
Not often. One of the interesting things in this is also in Song of Songs 8:6-7. It says, "Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If one were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, it would be utterly scorned." And now that language is actually in one of my favorite worship songs. It's an older song called "You Won't Relent" by Jesus Culture. And that's like I don't know if you consider it the bridge or the chorus line, but it's kind of the build up and the part that really just kind of explodes. But just such a beautiful song, and that is lyrics from Song of Songs.
Something we also see is how love expresses the human longing to know and be fully known and desired by another. Love is one of the most transcendent and mysterious experiences in human life, and as part of the Bible's wisdom tradition, the book says that it's a gift of God to experience love. And again, we read this as both two people actually in love to each other, and we read it as Christ and the bride of Christ of the church.
So one of the other just kind of core wisdom pieces that gets repeated multiple times here is the woman in this, the one that speaks the most, says, "Daughters of Jerusalem," and she says this a couple times, "Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires." And there's a few ways you can interpret this, but I think the most practical is, don't allow consuming desires to overtake you too early. Don't rush those desires along. That's kind of her warning, and it's given a couple different times in this. So now this woman also, though, interestingly, is worried about her skin and talks about how the skin has been touched by the sun. What is it talking about when she's saying her fear or worry of her skin being touched by the sun?
So this one's actually pretty interesting, pretty funny, knowing the context we live in today. Back then, it was not seen as, it was better to be like pale-skinned than tan.
Because it meant wealth.
Because it meant
wealth. You didn't do anything.
Versus like today where, man, if you're tan, like that's like, man, you better not see my thighs because, man, like they're pale. Like,
they'll blind you.
They'll blind you, right? Like, it has a negative connotation when you're pale. But and this time in culture, it was seen as like, whoa, you must be wealthy. You don't have to be outside working.
Because you have clothes
status,
that were really high, like they were high end, and they would cover you. You were seen as like, you didn't have to work for a living, so you are coming from a prestigious place.
Funny enough, with skin too, another like a trait that people look for is if you were overweight. That was also seen as like, oh, you are you are wealthy. you are like prestigious.
Yeah.
Which is just
you had plenty-
crazy compared to
plenty
where
to
our
eat.
culture is today. But yeah, so this woman, she kind of says like, I am darkened by the sun. And in the rest of the verse, it explains like why she was in the sun. It says that my mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards, made me go outside and work in the sun. She says, my own vineyard I had neglected, referring to herself. And so, in other words, she was forced to work outside and wasn't able to take care of her skin, which was something that was like,
She was worried
this is
actually
shameful almost.
that like, oh, you're going to see that I have a tan.
It's insecurity. Like in the same way someone would be insecure about having a farmer's tan or being pale, like the insecurity here was actually being tan versus pale.
Well, Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, so glad you guys joined us. Thanks for joining me on this fun little journey of wisdom literature today.
That was a lot of fun.
If you have questions, if you have thoughts as you're reading it, feel free to send us a comment. Also, we would love to hear your Nebraska takes. And apologize in advance to the Iowa fans out there, the 3 of you that there are. We're digging it deep today. So
probably.
But if you have takes, we would love to hear who's your breakout star. What is position that you think is the most, the weakest, or the one that you're worried about the most, and the one that you're most excited for as well.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
We will love to read those comments, and maybe we'll get some more Nebraska talk in a few weeks again when we get closer into the season. So
might have to.
So thanks for joining us again. Have a great day, and we'll see you back next time.